In my last video blog, I emphasized the fact that the discussion on agile planning is not part of Essence. 10 years from now, we may have much better planning practices. In this video, I want to share with you a concrete example of how Essence can make practitioners better software modelers for a lifetime. So let me start with a brief story. At a recent Essence working group meeting, one of the volunteers made an intriguing comment. This volunteer had been a practitioner in industry for over 20 years before returning to the university as a software engineering professor. He said that one of the things that attracted him to Essence was how he saw how the model could help with a common problem he had seen in industry. He stated that many software practitioners didn't understand how to develop a good software model. He went on to say, they think because they know how to draw a picture using a tool, that makes them a good software modeler. What intrigued me about this comment was the fact that some have criticized Essence for not providing adequate help when it comes to software modeling and architecture. So I decided to dig a little deeper into Essence to find what exactly it did provide and what it didn't provide when it came to software modeling and architecture. But first, I decided to do a little research into just what the purpose of software architecture is. And I found that software architecture refers to the high-level structures of a software system. These structures are needed to reason about the software system. Software architecture is about making fundamental structural choices which are costly to change once implemented. I then turned my attention to the Essence model. And I found 5 concrete examples of those structural choices. Hardware platforms identified, technologies selected, that would include programming languages and tools. System boundary known, that would include both what is inside the system and what is outside and what needs to be interfaced to on the outside. Decisions on system organization, buy, build, reuse decisions. I also found this very interesting quote. Software systems have to cater to a variety of stakeholders, such as business managers, owners, users, and operators. These stakeholders all have their own concerns with respect to the system. Balancing these concerns and demonstrating how they are addressed is part of designing the system. This implies that architecture involves dealing with a broad variety of concerns and stakeholders. I then turned my attention back to the Essence model to see what it had to say about stakeholders. And in the stakeholder alpha, first we find that stakeholder groups need to be identified. Key stakeholder groups need to be represented, and we say key because it often isn't practical for all the stakeholder groups to be represented, and responsibilities need to be defined. One of the reasons we needed to define those responsibilities is so when we get representatives, they understand what it is they're being asked to do, and they need to agree to those responsibilities, and they need to be authorized. We also find that we need to follow up to make sure those representatives are actually doing what they agreed to do. They're involved, providing timely feedback. One of the questions that will quickly come up as you start thinking about stakeholders is, how do we know we've got all of the key stakeholders? Well, if you go to the work alpha, you'll quickly learn about a couple of key stakeholders, the ones that are funding the effort and those who are accepting the result. And we know, because of the need to balance in the diverse concerns of stakeholders, we need to make sure the priorities are clear. If we turn to the work prepared state, you can start to get a sense for some of those priorities for the key stakeholders who are funding the system: cost and effort estimated, resource availability, risk exposure. Now, at this point, some of you may be wondering, wait a minute, I thought this was about software modeling and architecture. What does this have to do with architecture? Well, I found another really great quote that can help answer that. Software architecture should not be considered merely a set of models and structures, but should include the decisions that lead to these particular structures and the rationale behind them. If you turn to the Team Alpha, you can find one example of this, where we learn that sometimes decisions related to architecture have to be made for non-technical reasons, as just one example, such as the competency of your team. This all leads us back to a key question we all need to be asking: are we achieving the true purpose of our software architecture? And what I want you to take from this is the fact that you have to consider all of the dimensions of software engineering if you want an architecture that will help your endeavor succeed. As a final point, when people say Essence doesn't provide adequate help for software modeling and architecture, what they really mean is that it won't teach you how to draw a picture in the latest tool or how to use the latest reusable plugin library. 10 years from now, it is likely we're going to have much better drawing tools where we can create better pictures and better reusable libraries, so we don't have to do as much software development. Essence isn't going to help you learn to draw pictures in the latest tool or how to use the latest reusable library. But what it will teach you is the essentials of good software modeling and architecture that have been true for the last 50 years and will continue to be true for the next 50. In my next video blog, I want to continue with more examples of ways Essence can help practitioners that they can take with them for a lifetime. Thank you.